Every bear market, Bitcoin is facing some massive threat, which is just going to completely kill the space. And this time, believe it or not, it is Binance collapsing. So look, the last time that we actually dealt with something like this, you already know what happened. If we go back to November of last year, we saw FTX collapsing right here, and it triggered a very big drop in the market. I mean, from basically the time that this all kind of kicked off to the low, it took literally only a matter of a few days for Bitcoin to lose a quarter of its value. And, you know, it really begs the question, if Binance is in similar trouble, and we have seen a lot of FUD surrounding Binance, could things get worse for Bitcoin? Would a 25% drop turn into an 80% drop, for example? And would that happen from our current price? If we're looking at, you know, I mean, this just puts it into perspective. A 37% drop puts us down to 16K. But if we're going to see something way bigger, 70, 80%, is that going to send us down to price levels like $6,000? And more importantly, fuck all of that stuff. Is this actually going to happen? Is this just another instance of people losing their minds because they're being way too emotional? They're getting way too caught up in FUD. You know, it's like the kind of Bitfinex things that we were seeing way back. If you don't even know what that means, just fucking strap yourself in, get your seatbelt on, because you're in for a ride in this video. You know, or are we actually looking at some real substantial claims here? Are we actually looking at a situation where you better pay attention, you better sit up straight and really keep your ears open for what's going on right now? Because if you don't, you might catch yourself on the bad end of an FTX bubble collapse affecting the entire crypto space, maybe even contagion effect, right? One of the big concerns with FTX way back last year when it collapsed, almost actually about 10 months ago now, 11 months ago. You know, one of the big concerns and one of the big issues that happened after FTX collapsed was that so many other things collapsed as a result of FTX. People that, you know, FTX owed money to, they were, you know, too deep, you know, in that, you know, in that hole, basically. You know, they couldn't get the money that they were owed because FTX collapsed. So they collapsed as well. Are we going to see something like that going on? So guys, this is a different video to what we normally do on this YouTube channel. This is an incredibly well-researched video. Sorry, that is normal. But what's not normal is that we're diving really deep into a lot of fundamental analysis. So it's a slightly different video to what we're used to. If you are excited for it, do me a favor and smash up the likes on this YouTube video as we get into it, because you are, like I said, in for a ride with this YouTube video. And you know, the first thing that I want to cover with you guys is, why does this matter? We're going to get onto why this is even a big deal in the first place, like why people are worried about Binance. But first of all, why does it matter if Binance is in trouble? Now, the first thing that I want to do is point out to you guys, because, I mean, we just need to point this out. CoinMarketCap is the go-to place to look at anything crypto statistics related in terms of just big, broad numbers, okay? If you want to know what the biggest coins are, if you want to know which exchanges have the most volume, if you want to know the fear and greed index now, and so on, trending coins and so on, CoinMarketCap is where you usually end up as a new person in the space, as an old person in the space. But CoinMarketCap is owned by Binance. So... you know, it's one of those interesting things where, you know, and they don't tell you that anywhere. I mean, we're looking around, look at the top toolbar here, look at the bottom. You know, I mean, there's no mention of Binance anywhere here. So let's just keep that in mind. It's one of those things that's kind of misleading because, you know, I mean, if we look at the top crypto exchanges and the trust score, basically, you know, the rank that they give them based off a bunch of different things, you know, 10 being the highest score. Of course, Binance has a fucking 9.9. They own the damn platform. Now, that's not to say that Binance doesn't deserve that 9.9. I personally think that they do deserve the highest score in a lot of different metrics. But let's just take everything with a grain of salt, okay? You know, and the next thing that I also want to cover with you is the volume. You know, Binance, by a long shot, has the most trading volume on the spot markets, $3.5 billion in the last 24 hours. And it's been the leading exchange since way back, like 2018, 2019. So if we head on over to derivatives, we've got Binance over here with $18 billion in trading volume in the last 24 hours. Bybit, where I live, sitting at $4.8 billion. This is, I've always told you guys, the best exchange in the market. It is certainly not Binance in my experience. And I've been using Bybit since before I was even a partner with them. Definitely go ahead and check them out with the link in the description down below. You are actually getting, when you follow that link, you are getting right here up to $30,000 in completely free trading capital. Now, obviously, there's a bunch of weird shit going on with Bybit. Not actually with Bybit, but with the UK. The UK has now banned Bybit, which is a massive shame. The UK continues to fuck itself, which is really disappointing. Obviously, you guys know that I'm from the UK, and I moved out of the UK when they started to drive themselves further into the ground back in 2020. If these kind of things are issues, one of the things that I do is I'm also using exchanges like BingX. So, obviously you can't use this if the UK has banned this kind of thing, but I'm using it. I'm not in the UK anymore, so fuck what they say. And it is a no KYC exchange, which is super cool. The thing that I actually like about this, forget the no KYC thing, is that you can actually trade Tesla, Apple, Amazon, a bunch of other traditional finance markets on BingX without even, without any of that stuff, and you can just use a Bitcoin deposit. So again, I got to stress, you can't use this if you're in the UK. You can't use this if you're in the United States. If your country banned it, don't use it. Don't get yourself in trouble. Don't get me in trouble. But if you're allowed to within the confines of the law, then go ahead. You've got a massive $135,000 bonus waiting for you right there when you go ahead and check that out. So why the drama? This is the thing. This is what everyone's getting concerned about. You see, Binance has been under a lot of trouble in the United States, but also in Europe. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of articles online to suggest this. We've got Binance abandoning most of Europe. They've been banned in certain countries. Like I said, Bybit has just been banned in the UK. There is a global crackdown on exchanges right now. They just don't like the fact that we've been voting with our money, and they're not going to win, of course. But, what we have now is a situation where Binance has been under increasing scrutiny and pressure across the Western world. Now, everything outside of the Western world is pretty easy going right now, but the Western world itself is certainly not too happy. And what we've actually seen is just lawsuit after accusation from the SEC and other government bodies in the United States towards Binance. And it's actually extended into places where, me, I do not get caught up in the fear. I do not get caught up in the uncertainty and doubt. Ever. It's never happened since 2018. I was a noob. I was an idiot back in 2018. I've been different since then. And you've seen that. If you've been watching, I've been around. I haven't stopped posting YouTube videos since 2018. You've seen me. I do not care about this kind of thing. But many of the executives from Binance US have resigned in recent months. Much of their staff have been laid off. I think I've seen numbers like 30% or even more, potentially, don't quote me on this, have been laid off from Binance US. And that has got me raising eyebrows. It's got me raising eyebrows for two reasons. Number one, are these people, and we're just having a conversation right now. I'm not even, I've got a bit of a script right now, but I'm not even following it. I just want to talk to you. Number one, are these executives resigning because there's some real shit going down? Very possible. Are they resigning because it's really hard to deal with this? Kind of relates to the first point. Or number three, and this is the kind of most pleasant conclusion that we can draw, and we don't know the answer to this, of course, only the insiders know. But number three, are they resigning because it's bad for their career? Because if you've been paying attention to how this thing works, around the world, what we see is that when there's trouble in a company, executives will resign months, if not years, before that trouble materializes. Even if it might not materialize, just if there is a risk. Imagine this. Imagine there's a risk that your company is going to go down and you are an executive in that company. You are reliant on connections in the industry to have a well-paying salary for your job. And if you go down with a sinking ship, so too does your reputation. So a lot of the time, these people actually just jump ship, even if there's nothing actually particularly bad going on, just because they don't want the negative name associated with them, they jump ship early. They have already had their executive position in Binance. Guess how easy it is to get an executive position in JP Morgan now. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. A lot of the time, it's just a strategic career move. These people don't give a fuck, and they're just leaving because they don't want the bad press associated with their name. They want to keep it clean so they can keep on getting their beautiful bonuses and doing what they need to do. Fair enough. But are they leaving because there's some real trouble? It's just a question. I don't actually have the answer to it, but what we have here is a lot of back and forth, and the reason that all of this stuff is important is actually, if we head on over to the charts and take a look at this, and you guys know that this is what I'm most interested in, what we have with this chart right here, we can actually take a look at this, is a view at the all-time high market cap of FTT, that's FTX's token, and Binance token right here. And it's really interesting, actually, the way these numbers are. FTX had an all-time high market cap of $9 billion. That was at the end of 2021. That was when Bitcoin hit, I think, $69,000. And Binance at the same time managed to climb up to $110 billion. So about 10 times larger. And this is why it's really important, because I've already covered with you at the very beginning of the video what happened when FTX collapsed. Yeah, we know that when FTX collapsed, it sent shockwaves throughout the industry. And most importantly, the most noticeable thing that happened after FTX collapsed was that people became fucking scared, you know, and that fear, you know, you can make a strong case, and I would agree that that fear has continued to exist in the market up to this day. There are still people that are scared, primarily because of the events surrounding FTX's collapse. And, you know, we ask, why are governments being so annoying around the crypto space right now? It's because of shit like FTX's collapse. You know, you don't get such negative attention from regulators if the industry doesn't keep continuously fucking itself and imploding, you know, every few months or every few years. You know, you go from Mt. Gox to Bitfinex to FTX and so on and so forth. And we're going to cover a lot of them. Like I said, strap yourself in, because we're actually, you know, what I'm more interested in than all of this stuff, and we are going to stay on the charts. You are going to be continuing to have this conversation with me. But what I'm interested in more than all of this stuff is how has this played out in the past? Because like I said, if you have been around in this space as long as I have, this is now my 6th year in the crypto space. I have aged 20 years. I was 15 years old when I entered the space, and now I'm 35 after 6 years. You know, and you know, looking at that and looking at the kind of things that happened before I entered the space, before 2017, I really want to break down with you guys when people felt the way they feel about Binance today, when situations were developing in. Nothing's been similar, but when there were, you know, when history was rhyming, what happened? We're going to be looking at that too from a real data perspective. Like I said, very much in line with every YouTube video we make, but we're mixing a lot more fundamental analysis into it, which is something that we very rarely do. Again, if you appreciate that, if you're finding this entertaining so far, do me a favor and smash up those likes buttons. And also just tell me what you're thinking so far in the comment section down below. This is a discussion. Like I said, I want to know what you're thinking. I'm going to be down there in the comment section, chilling with you guys, talking to you guys and seeing what's up. So very curious to hear what you have to say. But like I said, the reason all of this is important is because when FTX did collapse, you know, not only did it trigger a big drop in the market, but it also lasted quite a long time, basically 2.5 months. And granted, and I was saying this as well, you know, this was quite short. You know, I think a lot of people expected a lot of people expected a $12,000 Bitcoin, a 10K, an 8K, a 9K, a 6K, a 3K Bitcoin, whatever. A lot of people expected the entire space to fucking die. You know, meanwhile, you had people like me saying, you know, we might actually be ready for a correction up because we've been literally dropping for many, many years, and you guys are as depressed as I've ever seen anybody. So, you know, this is usually how it goes. But again, you know, the voice of reason just isn't very sexy. So obviously, you know, that just, I mean, you guys that were paying attention, you knew what was up, but the rest of the people, they didn't want to hear that kind of thing. You know, and rightfully, I was able to take a long position off the back of all of that fear because, you know, I mean, that's what we do as traders. You know, bottom line, we're here to make money. And this is what I think most people miss out on. You know, when I'm telling you guys about Bybit and BingX and the other exchanges I'm using, I'm not doing it for fun. I'm doing it because these are the actual tools that I am using to make money. I don't care about anything else. If I cared about anything else, I wouldn't be a trader. I'm saying it point blank to you guys. I'm very, very honest and straightforward about it. I'm only trading to make money. Fuck me. Must be revolutionary for a lot of people. I don't care about the tech. Don't care about the philosophy. I love them both, but it doesn't matter. If I couldn't make money as a trader, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. Plain and simple. I love the tech, love the philosophy. Doesn't matter. We all got to eat. So really, really important note. And if we're looking at this from a perspective of, well, you know, Binance at its peak was 10 times higher, even more than FTX in terms of its overall size and even trading volume. I mean, I've got some interesting data here for you guys, you know, not that I can pull up right now, but just, you know, that we can take a look at from, actually, I can show this to you. Hang on, let me pull this up. It's right over, where is it? I think it's here. Yeah, what we can see right here was a snapshot of November 1st, 2022. So this is right before the collapse. No, let's put this on a chart. Let's just show you where this is for context. What we're looking at is basically right here, this day, right before the collapse. This was still a very heated market. There was still a lot of shit going on. November 1st, 2022, we had $18 billion traded on Binance spot market. So by the way, we can also see just how little capital is left in the market, right? If we look at this, compared to today, this is the derivatives volume, but the spot volume is like 5 times smaller today compared to basically just a year ago. Derivatives volume was fucking insane back then. I don't even want to imagine how much money these guys were making back then, because it'll just make all of us feel broke. But I don't know if it's actually going to load. Yeah, right there, $60 billion in traded volume. Absolutely insane. Absolutely crazy. $60 billion in 24 hours. Just on Binance right there. And FTX was huge. I mean, FTX is only 6 times smaller. This is a really important note. If we look at it just with the spot markets, FTX was pulling $1.5 billion in daily trading volume just on the spot market. We look at it today for Binance. Binance is only double. Do you know what I mean? Like, when we're talking about the scale, if Binance actually is trouble, if Binance actually pulls an FTX and just absolutely just collapses, it's FTX was, a pretty good representation of what might have happened. Is it just a case of, well, FTX was half the size, so we double the impact for Binance? It might be. I don't have the answers here, but these are a lot of interesting questions, and I feel like I've got, a fair bit of an idea of what might actually end up happening. So, these are really, really interesting things to be asking right here. If the volume is like this now, but the volume was, only half at FTX's peak, we are still looking at something very representative, potentially, of what might actually end up happening now. And if we actually look at that FTX collapse, if we zoom into it and take a closer look, this is the same thing I was mentioning before. It was right here that we saw that big 28% drop to the downside. Is it going to be a 56% drop for Binance because Binance's spot daily volume is double? Is that what we're going to see? We're going to see a double the drop. Does that mean from 26K we're dropping down to 13? So basically more or less the same price. Does it mean that actually it's going to be much bigger? My guess, especially after FTX and Binance, if Binance were to go next, it would be bigger. It would be bigger. FTX was still, really not that, it was huge. It was mainstream, but it wasn't, it was fairly new. It just wasn't as big of a figure as Binance. The contagion effect that we talk about with FTX was massive, but imagine it with Binance. How many projects are built off the Binance smart chain? They die overnight too. Do you know what I mean? So there was a lot of things up in the air over here, that would really just kill investor confidence and regulate this space into the ground. We really don't want to see this happen. A lot of people who don't like Binance, and I've made my position clear. I haven't liked Binance for many years because of the fuck ups they've done personally that affected me. And I've never really spoken publicly about them. I've spoken to Binance reps about it. They take no responsibility, which disgusts me. So I've had a very negative personal experience with them, but I don't want to see Binance collapse. It would be catastrophic for the rest of the space. It would be bad for competition. You guys know that I love Bybit with all of my heart. Bybit needs competition. All of these exchanges need competition in order to be good for you. And that's why we get good products. The only reason that we're able to choose so many different exchanges and so many of them be actually good options to use is because there's really tough competition in the space right now, and that actually allows us to use really good platforms. So we got to keep that in mind. We're not sitting here, jacking ourselves off to some fucking doomsday scenario, because a lot of people do that, and that's not what you're going to get on this YouTube channel. I'm not that kind of guy. I don't want to see anything collapse. What I'm looking for is just good projects, good platforms that are built on solid ground. And I've made my position on this clear in the past, despite my personal distaste for Binance. I do think they're a solid exchange. They did a bunch of things to prove that they had, full proof of reserves in the past. There's some questions, some shadows being thrown onto that, of doubt. Now we're going to see how that plays out over the next few, of course, these next few weeks and months. But they were the first ones to do it. You got to applaud them for that, right? Like, they did take a lot of the right moves. But let's carry on here with the video. We did see that FTX collapse here with a big drop. And of course, what might that mean for Binance? And of course, here's another view at the FTX token, FTT. It did manage to drop here by 96%. And by the way, it is still trading for some weird reason. It's still going on. It's just going in a pump and dump cycle. It's basically like a little ripple. And it's still doing its thing, I don't know how this is, keeping itself around, My guess would be that it's because, there are rumors of FTX coming back to life, and, no matter which way you cut it, if FTX does come back to life in some capacity and you've got a little bit of spare change lying around, $1.22 might not be a bad idea, might not be a bad entry level to get in. Maybe that's what we're looking at. I'm just speculating here. I'm only telling you guys what, I think these people are thinking. Typically when people hold on to, it's also, like I said, it's also people just holding onto the token, just hoping that something might change in the future. Obviously, we know how disastrous that mentality could be, which is why I told you, I haven't been in altcoins for many, many years because of precisely this. It'll put you in this position. It might not be a 96% drop, but it might be 70% or 80% or 90%. And, those are still quite big drops, to just kind of sit and be underwater for a long time. For me, that's not okay. I need to make sure that my capital is not, going down just because I've been sitting on my hands hoping that an altcoin makes me money. It's just my personal preference, and I've made that very clear with you guys on this YouTube channel. Okay, so let's talk future. Let's talk, how do we deal with this? Now, the first thing to keep in mind, and this applies to absolutely everything, it's the same thing I've been telling you guys for many, many years. If you have your money parked on an exchange, take it the fuck off right now. You've left it way too late. You should have done it before FTX collapsed. You've had an entire 10 months. Stop being irresponsible with your capital. Take your money off exchanges. Number one thing that we have to get out of the way. Not your keys, not your coins. You've maybe already heard of this already. What I'm talking about here is that if you do not have the actual custody of your coins, they ain't your coins, bro. They're not your coins. They belong to Binance. They belong to Bybit or whatever exchange you are using. The best and only approach to take with any exchange has been since the beginning to only put functional amounts of trading capital on the exchange. Only put what you're going to use, and everything else must be stored separately safely. How do you store that? Cold wallets, hardware wallets, paper wallets, whatever you like. Google those things. They are way more secure. It does put the responsibility of protection on you, but what it means is that if the exchange gets hacked, or if the exchange goes bust, or if the Binance token dies, or whatever the case may be, you are protected. So, and that's the whole point of crypto. That is literally why crypto exists. So, if you're not doing that, you're missing the single most important selling point of crypto, arguably the only selling point of crypto. You fuck that up if you're not doing this. So you have to do that. It's not really negotiable. If you're not doing it already, I don't even know what to say to you. You are late and you're playing a dangerous game. I've got a link to Ledger with the description. It's a great hardware wallet, super popular, something that I've used as well. Well worth checking out. But there's so many different solutions out there. You don't just have to use Ledger. Ledger just has a really good reputation. It's been around for a super long amount of time, and they've been good. So they're a good option to consider. And most people end up buying. I think like 90% of people that buy a hardware wallet will end up getting a Ledger. It's just the biggest one. It's the Binance of hardware wallets. So that's the first thing to mention. But the other thing that I want to point out to you guys is with this chart right here. If things do get bad, this is Bitcoin, but it took 2.5 days, 2 days for Bitcoin to collapse by a quarter, and that's just Bitcoin. If things do get bad, it can get bad really quick. Things can get bad really, really quick if things do actually start to get bad here. Here's another chart to illustrate this to you all. We're looking at potentially catastrophic drops, coming in very, very quickly. Let me just make sure I'm looking at the right things here. I've got a few more charts I want to show you guys. I'm just kind of teasing the video right now. Things can get bad very quickly within the space of just a few days. So this is why it's really important. It's not like, okay, well, I'll deal with this if the news shows me that it's getting worse, or if Binance tweets that, we're illiquid now, assuming this will happen. Obviously, like I said, I don't think any of this stuff is going to happen. I don't think Binance is in such a bad position. I think that they're just the biggest guy, and therefore they're facing a lot of scrutiny, but that's normal. Like, what else would you expect? So anyway, but the point is that even if this may or may not happen, we're not here to take risks with our capital, right? Like, I don't know about you, but I don't want to lose what I've got in crypto. I think most people don't want to lose what they've got in crypto, no matter how much or how little it is. You just don't want to lose your money. And by putting it in places where it's at risk, it's just an irresponsible thing to do. So, and that includes exchange tokens. I know that Binance token is a very, very popular investment. It's been an incredibly strong coin, also very stable. Even with the recent issues that Binance has been facing, it's done well. I mean, it hasn't fallen below its floor right here. If it does, you best believe this is going to be the short of a lifetime, and I'm definitely going to be interested in getting in on it. There's no fucking support for Binance if it loses this area. I mean, literally no support. It's just a straight black hole down. So, it's in deep, deep, deep shit. There's no other way to put it if Binance loses this area, and it certainly looks like it might, because it had a quick bounce up previously, and this time we've been around for a while and we haven't even got a bounce up. So if you've been watching me for a while, you're going to understand the way I kind of analyze by reading between the lines. I'm looking at how strong was a bounce before and how strong was the bounce now. Here's a great example of this, which I can actually show you right now in the chart. If we actually take a closer look at what happened to Binance at these support levels, like when we came back down here from the all-time high, we didn't even close a daily candle here, and we came back up. The next time, again, it was just a wick. Again, it was just a wick. Again, just a wick. And then here, it's a few days, but really nothing else. Now, I mean, we've been stuck down here, without a recovery for 40 days. So, by all accounts, it's a weaker position now than it was previously. And again, it's just hanging off a cliff edge right now. It's not in a good place. Technically, it's not in a good place. And having stop losses and stuff like that can be really useful. Now, obviously, the coin might, collapse, drop down like this, spike back up, and that would actually be very in character with what it's done already. And it might spike down quite low and then come right back up. But is that a risk that you want to take? Generally in my experience, exchange tokens just aren't the smartest things to hold. It's just too much of a liability. You're really only making the exchange owner rich anyway, and it's just never been the kind of investment strategy that I would take. If it's you, then good for you. Do whatever you like. I'm not here to convince you otherwise. But I am telling you how I feel about this kind of thing, and I've never really liked it. And it's in a weak position right now. That much is very, very clear just by looking at this chart. I mean, there is nothing left, for Binance until a massively catastrophic drop could come in here. So that's an important part of this. You've got to keep in mind that, the exchange token could certainly collapse. Now, if all of this stuff starts going south for Binance, and again, we're just staying on worst case scenarios. I don't even think this is going to happen. Here is a look at some of the biggest crypto addresses in existence, and this is actually ranked. So the first biggest address in crypto holds 250,000 Bitcoin, which are worth $6.5 billion. And that's actually a 1.28% supply of the total Bitcoin coins that have ever been or will ever been made, as far as I'm aware. I might be wrong on that, but it's basically the same number. 1.28% of all Bitcoins just held by this one address. And, if we look at this and really kind of zoom in to see what we're actually looking at here, I don't know, can you guys actually see this? Yeah, you can. Not every, but like a lot of these wallets are owned by, here's Bitfinex, this is number 2, but then we've got Binance, and then we've got Binance, and, then we've got Binance and Binance. There is a lot. There are a lot of these addresses that belong to Binance, and these are just the ones that we know about, so this is only the top 19. We can go further down. There's here's another Binance, there's a lot. Here's another Binance. They own a lot of Bitcoin, and one of the things that you have to do when you're in trouble, like the way FTX was in trouble, is you have to sell your assets to to cover positions, to pay back debts, or whatever the case may be. If it did come to that, there are a lot of Bitcoins that would be dumped on the market. In fact, the data I've got here tells me that it's around 400,000 Bitcoins in total. Now, that may or may not be right. I don't know. But if the number is anywhere close to that, plus minus 100,000 Bitcoin or whatever the case may be, that is still a lot of selling pressure that could end up hitting the market. We wouldn't know what would happen. Would the coins have to be liquidated? Would they be distributed to users? It's probably not going to happen that way, let's be honest. The users are usually the ones that get fucked the most, which is why it's so important that you take custody of your funds, which is why it's so important that no matter what you want to trade or what you want to do, that you don't keep your capital on exchanges. One thing I will say, though, which is actually really cool, is that Bybit has introduced unified trading accounts. And what that means is that if you do hold a lot of a particular coin, like let's say you hold a lot of Cardano, you hold a lot of even Binance coin, interestingly, but you want to trade Bitcoin, you don't have to hold a different coin. Like previously, you would have to either hold Bitcoin or USDT or USDC. You'd have to hold like one of these kind of coins in order to trade derivatives in the markets. With Bybit, you don't need to do that. You can trade derivatives no matter what you're holding. So it goes against the principle of take your money off exchanges, but if you want to keep your capital on the exchange, like let's say you got a bunch of Binance tokens and you want to keep them on Bybit for whatever reason, whatever your reason is, maybe you expect to make a trade in the near future, you can actually make derivatives trades with that. Which is really cool. So it actually counts. It's going to be more functional that way. You don't have to sell your altcoin holdings in order to engage in the market, which I think is a really, really cool thing. As far as I know, they are the only ones that do this right now. And it is very, very cool. So definitely do check that out if you are interested. And like I said, I mean, BingX down here with no KYC is absolutely crazy. Just all the traditional finance markets, I don't even care about the KYC. It's the fact that I can trade Tesla and Amazon and Apple and gold and Forex, all just with Bitcoin is absolutely insane. I love that stuff. Obviously the same warnings go out for BingX. Do not put too much money on it. This is obvious. You have to be responsible with your capital. But at the same time, I do love what they have on offer. And I have to stress this, I can't make this point clear enough. If your country does not allow you to use any of these exchanges, regardless of if they require KYC or not, do not use them. You have to comply with the laws of your country. So, that's if we come back to Binance and we talk about the potential impact of it could potentially be quite big. Now what I think could end up happening is if these things do actually kind of materialize and shit gets really, really bad, here's one potential outline scenario. It's that Bitcoin could end up dropping down by about 60%. And what we're looking at, in that case would be basically something that's quite similar to the COVID crash, which would be this chart right here. This was March of 2020. We had a 60% drop within 5 days. That's quite similar, obviously, to what happened after FTX. This is the FTX crash. This is 26% in 2 days. COVID crash was 60% in 5 days. It was absolutely heinous. It was horrible. And if we saw Binance collapse, I think we could be seeing something similar to that, and that would put us down at the $10,000 range. Definitely plausible. Still not something that I think is going to happen. I just don't think Binance is going to collapse. And I'm saying this very confidently to you guys on camera. I don't have a problem saying that publicly. I just don't think it's going to happen. But if it did, a 60% drop, and it would also mean that we're basically going to get nuked into a crypto nuclear winter. This entire range is going to be one massive, disgusting, bearish rising channel, rising wedge, whatever you want to call it, where the price just basically fights the trend for a little bit and then continues trending downwards. And it would probably end up putting us in a situation a little bit like Mt. Gox here. And this is a really interesting chart for you guys. This goes back all the way to 2014. Mt. Gox, if you don't know, was the biggest, basically the main or the only real crypto exchange that existed for a really long time. And what actually happened at the height of the bull market here was that they got hacked. That's the official story. And and it was just bad. I mean, a lot of people lost their capital. It's just shit went really, really bad in the market. And what we saw was an 80% drop from that point to the downside. 80% drop. It did take a year, admittedly. It wasn't that quick, although, a lot of the drop happened quickly. I mean, we went from $800 all the way below even $400, so it halved, just within a matter of, if we look at the wick, within 2 weeks, basically, within 3-4 weeks, it went down by, more than 50%. So, it really depends on how you actually look at this, but bottom line, it dropped down quickly and for a long time, and this is what's really interesting is basically to recover this point and get back above. We're looking at, over 1,000 days, more or less, plus minus whatever. It doesn't really matter. A very, very long time. And that was Mt. Gox, and this is an interesting comparison. This comparison is interesting to me because Mt. Gox held a similar position to Binance. Mt. Gox was the biggest. Today, Binance is the biggest. If we see something similar, well, what happened last time was it sunk crypto into a crypto winter. There was no mention, no talk, no interest in crypto for many years, from 2014 all the way up to, mid or even late 2016, even early 2017. There was no interest in crypto. It's like, 2 to 3, 4 years, that people just weren't interested in the market as a result of the biggest exchange collapsing. And if the same thing were to happen to Binance today, is it unreasonable reasonable to say that we wouldn't A, see a really big drop from here, and B, that drop would sustain for a really long time. I think it's totally reasonable to say that, especially given what we've seen in the past with Mt. Gox as well. So it's a really interesting comparison to be making, because if we're looking at something similar to that right now happening with Binance, well, we've already seen what happened as a result of it. We've seen what happened as a result of FTX. It sunk crypto into a winter, which, to be honest, you could even argue has persisted until today, 10 months later. But if you just look at the price, then, really, you can only really make the argument that, and this is what I thought was really funny and interesting, was obviously, the FTX drama started right at the top over here, but we recovered all of it within 2.5 months. And this is what I think was really interesting, because a lot of people were really scared. They were talking about, the end of times, and it was just all doomsday and shit like that. And obviously that's, like I said, where I'm starting to step in and saying, hey, calm the fuck down. There's actually money to be made here. And that's why I took the long positions that you guys have heard me talking about. And obviously, I'm still in those long positions. I'm still in both the Tron and the Bitcoin position. The Tron position keeps making me money, which is absolutely fantastic. It just keeps looking like it could be ready for a breakout. And I'm definitely well positioned for it if it does break out. I've taken most of my profits off the table now, made a lot of money on it. Very, very good position there. But what we had with FTX, and by the way, if you want to see, what those trades actually look like in real time, then you can follow these steps on screen. That's going to get you inside of the VIP group, where I share all of the details on every trade I'm making with you guys. It's just a couple simple clicks. This link actually takes you into my 𝗬𝗢𝗥𝗙𝗚𝗓 Telegram channel, where you get a bunch of free analysis from myself and my team. We just punch that shit out around the clock. It's completely free of charge, just like this YouTube channel, but even more on demand. I mean, I only make one video a day, and at that, I don't even do it every day. So, the Telegram channel is way more active. There's way more value in there coming at you guys for free. And then you can just click on my name and message me. It's really important. If you're trying to message me in any other way, you might end up speaking to a scammer. It happens a lot. Please don't be that guy. All of the links in the description are my official links, and so you should only use those. And that applies to any other YouTuber as well. Really, really important to be keeping that in mind. That if we do come back to the market here, we've seen that we actually recovered this really quickly. So, all of this stuff is only to put things in perspective. The main thing, especially, like I said, we come back to the kind of discussion element of this video is, well, is Binance going to collapse? Is this actually going to be the end for Binance? And, crypto is looking at, sinking itself into another crypto winter. Is that actually what we're seeing here? The real issues that Binance is facing primarily stem from regulation, primarily stems from pressure from the United States. Well, the United States, as much as it sucks to say it, because of what they've done, isn't actually a big crypto market. It just isn't. It's not as big as the rest of the world. Europe is big too. They're both big. But there's a lot more to the world than just them. Binance ain't going anywhere. Even if those two markets shut down, even if you completely exclude Europe and the United States, Binance still has a lot of people it can serve. Outside of those two continents, it would be a massive blow. Don't get me wrong, but have you guys seen the way these exchanges run? Like they print money. Forget the exchange fees. Like, what about the data? What about the data on good traders and bad traders that they're collecting? What about the actual trades that they make? You know what I mean? Like, FTX had a sister company, Alameda Research, and that company was just exclusively based on trading crypto. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what they were doing, but my guess was that they were probably using a lot of the data from FTX to trade in Alameda, and so, when we start talking about that, it's just unlimited money, so I don't think that it's going anywhere. Even in that worst case scenario, the US, it requires a whole different video. If you want me to talk about it, just let me know that with the comment section down below. But with Europe, with the kind of regulation that Binance is facing, some of it is bad. Don't get me wrong. Some of it isn't ideal, but it's still not nearly as bad as people have been painting it out to be. Even if we look at things like the executives resigning, even if we look at things like staff being laid off, is this a case of, people being fearful and therefore leaving because there's going to be a catastrophe? Or is it just employees who don't really have a strong emotional attachment to the company, who just want to safeguard themselves, which is completely understandable. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know, up to you guys to decide, but completely understandable, right? Like, you can understand why people would do that. So I think if we really just kind of take a realistic approach to all of these things that are scaring people in the market, then you and I can start to come to some conclusions that, generally, for me, points to saying that, hey, it's just not as bad as people are saying. you know, and that's usually that way. It just usually happens to be the case that people make a way bigger deal out of this shit than it actually needs to be, you know, and I believe that to be happening right now. And I'll tell you what, guys, the best thing I can tell you is that in the face of all of that, in the face of everybody just being so damn scared of crypto and Binance and whatever else is going on in the space, look at the price. We're not even moving. You know, like if this market really was very weak, if let's pretend the market, forget like what you think about the market is right now, but let's just pretend the market is actually really weak. Well, in weak markets, when you get bad news like what Binance is facing right now, weak markets crash. But that's not happening right now. Does that mean we're not in a weak market? Not necessarily, but I think it definitely shows us that, you know, if you feel super certain that Bitcoin is in a very weak position, it might be time to step back and just ask yourselves, well, hang on a minute, wouldn't Bitcoin respond differently to a lot of the shit going on in the space right now? You know, this is one of the points that I'm resting my case on. It stood true this entire year. You know, I mean, this entire year, you know, Bitcoin has only gone up, generally speaking. It's been sideways for a lot of the year, but generally it's only gone up from the beginning of the year. And, you know, you're going to hate me for saying it, but the numbers are right in front of you, ladies and gents. This is the beginning of the year. Bitcoin started this year at $16,500, and even to today, we're up by 60%. Show me any stock market or any stock or any index that's pulled this kind of gain. It just doesn't happen. So, you know, this is really important to be keeping in mind. The numbers are staying stable. People are losing their minds. Emotions are making people go crazy, but the numbers ain't doing anything. Yeah, and that's why people are going crazy, because the numbers just aren't moving. Ultimately, that's what it comes to. Crypto traders are just impatient, and that's great. It's good for you and me. If you can recognize that, and if you can tame your own impatience, which I know is hard, but if you can, you're going to make a lot of money off this kind of thing. And that's exactly what I intend to do with you guys right here. If you want to join me on that ride, then check out the beautiful exchanges that I'm working with in the description down below. I also want to highlight to you guys one of the new exchanges that I've started working with. They are called CoinW, and I actually posted this in response to the Bybit ban in the UK. You know, these are some of the alternatives that I use. CoinW is actually going to give you $50 for free to trade with. You don't need to deposit anything. You don't need to do anything at all. Just use my link. This is going to be in the description of today's video. And if it's not there, then check it out on Twitter. Just use my link to CoinW and you are going to get $50 for free to trade with. You can do whatever the fuck you like with that $50. Any profits you generate are yours to keep. BingX also giving you up to over 130K in bonuses, but you can also trade stocks like Tesla and so on, which is super cool. So check it all out if you are interested in that kind of thing right there. I mean, you know, I'm here with you guys. I'm not going anywhere. You know, I mean, this market is still super tradable, even when it's quiet, even when, you know, the better plays are to short or whatever the case may be. There is still so much that we could do, you know, and I'm definitely strapped in. And I hope to see you guys there. So anyway, guys, like I said, tell me what you think in the comment section down below. I'm going to be chilling there with you guys as well. But you know what to do if you have enjoyed this video. Hit up the likes, subscribe, tick the bell, do all that good stuff. I'm excited for this one. It's a really different video. This video took a lot more time. Let me know if you want to see more. All right, take it easy.